Sean Combs, widely known as Diddy, is a music mogul, entrepreneur, and cultural icon who recently stood trial for multiple serious criminal charges in a federal court in New York. Once celebrated for his influence in the entertainment industry, Combs has faced numerous allegations over the years, but in 2025, those allegations reached a legal turning point. He was charged under the RICO Act, which is typically used to prosecute organized crime. The indictment included charges of racketeering, sex trafficking, and transporting women across state lines for illegal sexual activities. The case drew public attention for its scale. More than 120 women came forward with testimonies, including two high-profile accusers, R&B singer Cassie Ventura and another woman known only as Jane. They described disturbing scenarios of manipulation, abuse, and coercion at events referred to as freak-offs. These gatherings allegedly involved forced participation in sexual acts, often under the influence of drugs, and frequently took place in hotel rooms or private residences connected to Combs' business operations. Prosecutors argued that Combs used his wealth and celebrity status to build a network that enabled the exploitation of vulnerable women. They presented a case lasting 6 weeks, including 34 witnesses and video evidence. One of the most disturbing pieces of evidence was a hotel surveillance video from 2016, showing Combs assaulting Ventura. The defense argued that the relationships were consensual. They claimed that the evidence showed no pattern of trafficking, only intimate relationships that were now being reinterpreted. Combs' legal team also emphasized the lack of direct evidence, proving that he coordinated a criminal enterprise. After weeks of proceedings, the jury returned to a split verdict. Combs was acquitted of most of the serious charges, including racketeering and sex trafficking. However, he was found guilty on 2 counts of transporting individuals across state lines for illegal sexual purposes. These charges involved Cassie Ventura and Jane. This outcome has sparked debate. While Combs was not convicted of sex trafficking or running a criminal enterprise, many believe the verdict still confirms that some level of exploitation occurred. Prosecutors called the conviction a form of justice for the victims, even if it did not cover all accusations made against him. Following the verdict, Combs remains in custody without bail. Despite avoiding the harshest possible charges, many believe he was able to successfully get away with the more severe charges, while others are happy that there is some level of justice occurring. Whether the full truth was revealed or not, the trial has become one of the most significant legal events in modern entertainment history. O.J. Simpson was once celebrated as a sports icon and Hollywood celebrity. He rose to national fame in the 1970s as one of the greatest running backs in American football history. After retiring from football, he built a successful career in film, television, and advertising. However, Simpson's legacy became permanently tied to one of the most famous criminal trials in American history. In July 1994, his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ron Goldman were found brutally killed outside Nicole's home in Los Angeles. Simpson quickly became the prime suspect. His failure to turn himself in led to a nationally televised police chase in a white Ford Bronco, watched live by nearly 95 million Americans. The trial that followed, known as the Trial of the Century, lasted nearly a year. Prosecutors presented extensive forensic evidence, including DNA samples linking Simpson to the crime scene. The defense, led by a group of high-profile lawyers known as the Dream Team, argued that the evidence was contaminated and that Simpson was being framed by racist police officers. One key moment was when a pair of gloves, believed to belong to the killer, appeared too small for Simpson when he tried them on in court. The defense used this moment to question the reliability of the evidence. In October 1995, Simpson was acquitted of both killings. The verdict deeply divided public opinion. While many believed he had committed the crimes, the prosecution had failed to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. 2 years later, Simpson was found liable for the deaths in a civil trial. He was ordered to pay $33.5 million in damages to the victims' families. Despite this, he continued to live a relatively public life. He occasionally gave interviews, played golf, and made headlines for various legal and financial troubles. In 2007, Simpson was arrested again, this time for armed robbery and kidnapping. He had entered a Los Angeles hotel room with a group of men to retrieve sports merchandise he claimed was stolen from him. In 2008, he was sentenced to 33 years in prison. He served 9 years and was released on parole in 2017. By the time of his death in 2024, he had completed his parole and was living quietly in Nevada. Though acquitted in court, O.J. Simpson remains a symbol of how fame, money, and legal strategy can alter the course of justice. Roman Polanski is a world-renowned film director whose reputation has long been overshadowed by serious criminal allegations. Born in France and raised in Poland, Polanski rose to fame with multiple critically acclaimed films. In 2003, he won the Academy Award of Best Director for The Pianist, but he was not present to accept the award. He had fled the United States decades earlier after being charged with a serious sex crime. In 1977, Polanski was arrested in Los Angeles for the sexual assault of 13-year-old Samantha Geimer. According to court records, he provided her with champagne and drugs before engaging in unlawful sexual activity with her during a photo shoot. He was initially charged with multiple felony offenses, including forced non-consensual sex and giving controlled substances to a minor. However, as part of a plea deal, Polanski pled guilty to a reduced charge of unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor. He served 42 days in a California prison while undergoing psychiatric evaluation, but fled the United States in early 1978 before formal sentencing. Polanski then settled in France and also holds Polish citizenship. Because both countries do not extradite their own citizens, he has been shielded from returning to face sentencing in the United States. Over the years, several attempts were made to arrest and extradite him, including a notable case in 2009 when he was detained in Switzerland. Swiss authorities ultimately denied the extradition request. In addition to the 1977 case, Polanski has faced multiple other allegations of sexual assault from women who claim the incidents occurred during the 1970s and 80s. In recent years, civil cases have emerged, including a 2024 lawsuit filed in Los Angeles by a woman identified as Robin M., who alleges that Polanski assaulted her in 1973. That suit was later settled out of court. Polanski's continued success in the film industry has fueled widespread criticism. His fame, international connections, and dual citizenship allowed him to continue working and living with relative freedom for decades. Chris Brown rose to fame in the mid-2000s as a teenage R&B artist, quickly becoming one of the most recognized voices in pop music. However, alongside his chart-topping success, his name became repeatedly associated with legal troubles, violent behavior, and serious criminal allegations. Despite multiple incidents spanning over a decade, Brown has managed to largely avoid long-term legal consequences, making him one of the most controversial figures in celebrity culture. The most infamous event occurred in February 2009, when Brown physically assaulted his then-girlfriend, pop star Rihanna. The photos showing her injuries made headlines around the world. Brown was arrested and later pleaded guilty to felony assault. He was sentenced to 5 years of probation, 1 year of domestic violence counseling, and community service. Many were shocked that he avoided jail time, especially given the graphic nature of the attack and the attention it received. Critics pointed to celebrity privilege as a factor in the relatively light sentencing. Since then, Brown's legal issues have continued. In 2013, he was charged with misdemeanor assault after punching a man outside a hotel in Washington, D.C. That same year, he was involved in a hit-and-run incident in Los Angeles. In both cases, Brown received lenient penalties, including probation extensions and brief jail stays. He was never imprisoned for a lengthy term. More serious allegations followed. In 2016, actress and model Karrueche Tran was granted a 5-year restraining order after claiming Brown had threatened and assaulted her. In 2019, Brown was briefly detained in Paris following a forced non-consensual sex accusation. He was released without charge. Again, in May 2025, Brown was arrested in the United Kingdom and charged with bodily harm for allegedly assaulting music producer Abraham Dio with a tequila bottle in a nightclub in 2023. He was denied bail and remained in custody pending a court hearing. Additionally, Brown is involved in civil litigation related to a documentary titled Chris Brown: A History of Violence. The film claims to expose a long-standing pattern of abuse and misconduct. Brown responded by filing a defamation lawsuit against the producers, seeking $500 million in damages. He has also been named in other lawsuits involving allegations of backstage violence and sexual assault. Despite this lengthy record of accusations and criminal charges, Brown has remained a prominent figure in the music industry. His fan base is still strong, and his albums continue to perform well commercially. The consistent avoidance of severe legal consequences has led many to argue that his celebrity status and wealth have shielded him from accountability. Chris Brown's case represents a larger debate about justice and privilege in the entertainment industry. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is widely regarded as one of the greatest boxers of all time, but while his athletic legacy is celebrated, his personal life is filled with a long history of legal issues, most of which did not lead to significant consequences. Mayweather's legal troubles began in the early 2000s. In 2002, he was charged with 2 counts of domestic violence and 1 count of misdemeanor battery for hitting women during separate incidents. He was sentenced to a 6-month suspended jail term, 2 days of house arrest, and required to attend counseling and perform community service. In 2004, he was convicted of battery again involving 2 women in a nightclub. This time, he received another suspended sentence, further community service, and more counseling. Despite these repeated offenses, he avoided jail time. His most widely known case occurred in 2010. Mayweather was arrested for assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Josie Harris, in front of their children. The police report stated that he pulled her hair, punched her in the head, and twisted her arm while threatening to kill her. In 2011, he pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of misdemeanor battery and served only 60 days of a 90-day jail sentence. He was released early for good behavior. During his brief time in jail, it was reported that he paid for protection from other inmates. Even with this criminal history, Mayweather continued to fight in high-profile boxing matches. State athletic commissions did not revoke his boxing license or penalize him professionally. His 2015 fight with Manny Pacquiao generated over $400 million in revenue. Despite protests from advocacy groups, broadcasts and sponsors continue to support him. This raised questions about whether his wealth and fame shielded him from accountability. Mayweather's legal troubles did not end with domestic violence. In later years, he faced civil lawsuits for alleged assault and harassment. In 2022, a man accused him of ordering a bodyguard to beat him at a Los Angeles restaurant. The plaintiff filed a lawsuit seeking more than $3 million in damages. Mayweather denied involvement. In 2024, he was sued again after a man claimed that Mayweather's entourage assaulted him for filming the boxer while jogging. In both cases, Mayweather sought to have the lawsuits dismissed. As of 2025, Mayweather is involved in 2 more lawsuits. One alleges that he committed franchise fraud, with damages estimated at $8 million. Another case involves unpaid jewelry, worth $4 million. Still, he has not been criminally charged in these matters, and they remain in civil court. Despite the repeated allegations and legal issues, Mayweather has never served more than 2 months in jail. He continues to enjoy significant public visibility through exhibition matches, endorsements, and business ventures. In public interviews, he has often dismissed these incidents or reframed them as misunderstandings. His fans continue to support him, and his brand remains strong in boxing circles. James Franco is a well-known American actor and filmmaker whose reputation took a major hit following serious allegations of sexual misconduct. While he once enjoyed a career filled with critical acclaim, the years following 2018 raised uncomfortable questions about his abuse of power. Franco gained mainstream fame through roles in television and film. However, his image started to crack when it emerged that he had tried to arrange a meeting in a hotel room with a 17-year-old Scottish fan. Although no crime was formally charged in that incident, it raised concerns about his judgment, specifically given his age and influence. In 2018, the Los Angeles Times published a report in which 5 women, 4 of whom were former students at his acting school Studio 4, accused Franco of sexually exploitative behavior. Some allege that he pressured students into performing explicit scenes without proper safety protocols or adequate consent. One former student claimed that he removed plastic guards during a simulated oral sex scene. Another woman alleged that Franco coerced her into a sexual act in his car. The allegations painted a picture of a power imbalance between teacher and student, where professional opportunities were tied to sexual compliance. Franco denied the claims and maintained that all encounters were consensual. However, he also admitted in a later interview that he had been involved in inappropriate relationships with students, calling it wrong and acknowledging the power dynamics at play. In 2019, a civil lawsuit was filed by 2 former students who claimed that Studio 4 functioned as a front to exploit young women. They alleged that auditions and classes were designed to push boundaries under the false promise of career advancement. The lawsuit also claimed that students were made to sign away rights to film scenes that were never used in real productions. Franco eventually agreed to a $2.2 million settlement in 2021, though he did not admit any guilt. Despite this, the damage to his reputation was significant. Seth Rogen, a longtime collaborator, announced he would no longer work with Franco, stating that the allegations had fundamentally changed their relationship. Studio 4 was quietly shut down, and Franco retreated from the public eye. In 2024, he made a rare public appearance at the Cannes Film Festival, suggesting a gradual return to the entertainment industry. However, many critics argue that Franco essentially avoided true accountability. He was never criminally charged, and his legal battles were resolved financially, rather than through the court system. Robert Blake, born as Michael James Gubitosi in 1933, began acting as a child. As he grew older, he changed his stage name to Robert Blake and went on to achieve major success in film and television. For years, Blake was respected in Hollywood. But everything changed in 2001 when he became the main suspect in the killing of his wife, Bonnie Lee Bakley. On May 4th, 2001, Bonnie Lee Bakley was shot and killed while sitting alone in Blake's car outside a restaurant in Studio City, Los Angeles. Blake claimed he had walked back into the restaurant to retrieve a gun he had left inside. When he returned, he said he found Bakley shot in the head. Police investigations began immediately. From the start, the case received massive media coverage, partly because of Blake's fame, and partly due to the strange and tragic circumstances of the killing. Bakley was a controversial figure herself. Before marrying Blake, she had a history of scamming wealthy and famous men, including claims of fathering children with celebrities. Her relationship with Blake had been rocky. Although they had a child together, their marriage was brief and full of conflict. Investigators believe that Blake had a strong motive to get rid of her, especially since he had previously expressed regret about marrying her. In 2002, Robert Blake was arrested and charged with her killing. Prosecutors claimed that he had tried to hire 2 former stuntmen to kill Bakley for him. Both stuntmen testified that Blake had approached them with the offer, but they said they refused. However, their testimonies were filled with inconsistencies. The defense team used this to their advantage, arguing that there was no physical evidence linking Blake directly to the crime. There was no gunpowder residue on his hands, and no witnesses that saw him commit the killing. In 2005, after a lengthy trial, Blake was found not guilty of all criminal charges related to Bakley's killing. Many observers were shocked by the verdict. The public remained divided. Some believed the jury made the right decision due to the lack of strong evidence. Others felt that Blake had clearly benefited from being a celebrity and that justice had not been served. What became clear was that the prosecution's case had too many weak points to secure a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. Although Blake avoided criminal punishment, the case did not end there. Bakley's family filed a civil lawsuit against him for wrongful death. Civil trials require a lower standard of proof than criminal trials. In 2005, the civil court found Blake responsible for Bakley's death and ordered him to pay $30 million to her family. The amount was later reduced to $15 million, but Blake eventually filed for bankruptcy and was unable to pay most of it. Following the trial, Blake became a recluse. His acting career never recovered, and he rarely made public appearances. In interviews, he always insisted on his innocence and expressed frustration with the legal system and the media. He passed away in March 2023 at the age of 89. Vince Neil became a rock icon in the 1980s as the frontman of Motley Crue. He captivated audiences with his voice and image, yet behind his guitar skills and stage presence, Neil's personal life was filled with serious legal issues. Despite repeated arrests, charges, and personal turmoil, he consistently avoided significant jail time or long-term consequences. The legal troubles began in December 1984. Neil was behind the wheel in a crash that tragically ended the life of Nicholas Razzle Dingley, drummer for the Finnish rock band Hanoi Rocks. Neil's blood alcohol level tested at .17, more than double California's legal limit. The crash resulted in the death of Dingley and left both the passenger and driver to the other vehicle badly injured. Neil was charged with vehicular manslaughter and driving under the influence. In September 1985, he received a 30-day jail sentence, but served only 19 days. Following his release, he was placed on 5 years probation, required to complete 200 hours of community service, in order to pay over $2.5 million in restitution. These punishments seemed severe, but were viewed by many as light, especially given the loss of life and his high blood alcohol level. The incident did not prevent Neil from continuing his music career. Just a year later, he returned to the stage with Motley Crue. Concert promoters, fans, and record labels stepped in without hesitation. His status seemed undiminished. From that point forward, law enforcement actions were regular, but consequences remained minimal. In 2002, Neil was arrested in Los Angeles for punching a record producer outside a nightclub during a dispute. Neil admitted guilt and received only probation and community service. No jail time was given for this act of assault, which again raised questions about his seeming immunity from more serious consequences. Another major incident occurred at the Moonlight Bunny Ranch, a legal brothel in Nevada. In 2003, Neil allegedly grabbed a sex worker around the neck and forced her against a wall. He entered a no-contest plea deal in 2004 to a misdemeanor charge. The court responded with a suspended 30-day sentence, anger management counseling, and a small fine. The lack of jail time surprised observers, especially after the violent nature of the allegation. Neal's relationship with alcohol continued to produce legal problems. In June 2010, police pulled him over in Los Angeles for erratic driving and suspected drunk driving. He pleaded guilty to DUI in January 2011. He served 15 days in jail followed by another 15 days of house arrest, joined by community service. Although fines were imposed, his punishment was considered light for a repeated DUI offender. In 2007, a prior arrest for DUI had been downgraded to reckless driving, which resulted in no jail time. Perhaps the most notable incident in the 2010s occurred in 2016. Actress Kelly Guerrera accused Neal of assault at the Aria Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. Neal pleaded guilty to misdemeanor battery, received probation, and paid a $1,000 fine. Guerrero later filed a lawsuit seeking $75,000 in damages for emotional distress. Both parties later reached a resolution out of court. Over the span of 3 decades, Neal's legal record includes a fatal crash, multiple assault cases, and repeated DUI arrests. Yet his jail terms have been rare and short, his fines modest in the context of his wealth, and his professional career largely unaffected. This pattern had led critics to argue that his celebrity status allowed him to escape full accountability. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you learned something, make sure to leave a like. Comment down below your thoughts on anything I discussed in this video, and subscribe if you would like to see a part 2 or more videos like this one. Thank you again, and goodbye.